And we are back with our last episode of Straight Out the Lou in the year 2020. As always, I'm Dylan, joined by Luke and Chris. And today we have a little bit of a special episode. We're going to be looking at some of the best moments of 2020, worst moments, best storylines, biggest letdowns, and the most surprising moments in sports in the year 2020. Okay, boys. I can start us off here with the best moment of 2020. So, as a Niners fan, coming into the 2019-2020 season, a lot of people were doubting Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch because they weren't having too much success in the first couple years of their regime. But I kept the faith. I knew that they had a roster that was built to make a push. Even though the quarterback was a little suspect, I understood that the rest of the pieces were definitely there. Everybody counted them out at the beginning of the year. I believe that they were ranked 15 to 20 in all power rankings through at least week 6. Nobody believed that they were a real team until probably week 8 or 9, middle of the season last year. But the Niners, the 2019-2020 Niners, winning their conference was by far my best moment of 2020. When they blew out the Packers with Raheem Mostert going for 4 touchdowns, running all over that defense, I was having a great day. Great day. Best moment of 2020 for me.
All right, I'll go. Yeah, so personally, it's got to be Marcus Smart's chase down block in Game 7 against Norman Powell. But you know what? That's my personal one. But if I were to say the best sports moment that I saw of 2020, even though I didn't win the series, that play to end Game 6 of the World Series was absolutely crazy. That was the best.
Four?
What? Or Game 4? Yeah, that was the best moment I saw all year.
Yeah, so
run us through that real quick. Real quick.
Well, my reasoning?
No. Like the play.
Oh, well, I mean,
run us through the play.
You get the last guy off the bench up to the plate, and he hits a little bloop single. You got a great player out there, Chris Taylor in center field, playing center field for some reason, bobbling the ball. What's his face behind the plate? Will Smith drops it. 2-run score. One of the craziest plays I've ever seen.
Was a thriller for sure.
Yeah, so for my personal best moment of the year, it's got to be obviously the Tyler Hero coming out party. 37 points against the Boston Celtics in Game 4 to basically wrap that series up. An incredible moment for the Miami Heat, and how close the Celtics were to getting Tyler Hero and how actively they were trying to trade up for him in the draft. You hate to see it, really.
Well, we got our Tyler Hero this year, so.
Oh yeah, no, that is true. But my best moment in all of sports this year, I think it's more of a best play. I'm going to go with the DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary catch. That whole end of that game was just wild. Diggs catching the touchdown, the commentator saying he's the best receiver in the league, and then Hopkins just mossing 3 guys in the end zone. I mean, that's got to be the best moment of the year. I don't think it's really close.
How about
Game 4 is a great one though too.
Yeah. How about that video of Joe Burrow with the cigar? That I almost said that one.
That one's pretty cool too. Just Joe Burrow just balling the national championship game. That one's pretty cool.
That was cool, but as a best moment, I'm not sure. I probably objectively would have to go with that Game 4 in the World Series. That was unreal. Unreal. That was a crazy play. I mean, obviously, we can't really show the replay here with our limited technology, but definitely look it up on YouTube, all viewers. Worst moment for me, again, subjective take here, but the ACLs of the Bay Area, just all together, awful, really painful. Obviously, we had Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas both go down in week 1, 2 huge losses for the 49ers. And then you have Klay Thompson coming off the torn Achilles, and he just first practice with the team tears his ACL going into a season where they were going to be title contenders. Heartbreaking for all Bay Area sports fans and sports fans in general. I mean, these are top tier talents that are just losing out on seasons possibly in their prime because of freak injuries. It's sad. It's sad, and it happens. And in a freak year like 2020, it was probably to be expected that weird stuff like that was going to happen. But
Yeah, not ideal in 2020. I think I can speak for probably Chris. I mean, he might have something else, but I think the worst moment of 2020's got to come in late March when Tom Brady
I was going to say the same thing. I'll say something else now. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
decided to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after what was it, 20 years with the Patriots? I think it was 20 years, 18 as a starter, or 19 as a starter. That guy, like, made my childhood, going to Super Bowls almost every year, being the best team in the league almost every year. I mean, it's just lucky that, you get to watch a player like that, the greatest player of all time, and, it hurts when he decides to leave your team. So I think that's just got to be the worst moment of 2020, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I would have said the same thing. But, where do I start? And not a great year for my teams. We got Mookie leaving or getting traded.
That's a good one, yeah.
You got the Celtics blowing big leads every game in the conference finals. That was a disgrace. You got Michigan losing to Michigan State. That was awful. That might have been the worst.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, I gotta add one in, Chris, too. Of course, worst moment, Marco Wilson. I mean,
I thought you were going to say that. I thought you were going to Marco Wilson.
It's unbelievable.
But, I got to go with just the pandemic. I'll never forget this. I think it was March 11th. I remember I'm just playing Xbox with my friends, and I see the notification that the Thunder and Jazz game had been canceled. And you see that Gobert had COVID. You remember the day before he was touching on the microphones and stuff. And then the next day, I'm sitting in class.
You guys at school the next day after that?
Yeah, I'm sitting in class on March 12th, and I'm about to try and watch the Big Ten tournament. Michigan's playing Rutgers in the first game of their Big Ten tournament, and I log on at about 11:50, and the game is canceled during shoot around. And then you see the Big East tournament, which is the only one left, gets canceled at halftime of the first game. And later that day, the NCAA tournament's canceled, and we're without 3 months of sports. That had to be it for me.
Yeah, going off that, a best moment that was close for me was just baseball coming back, being the first major sport coming back with that Yankees Nationals game, the loaded Yankees going up against the defending champs. I mean, I remember I was in LA playing baseball when that happened, and I was sitting around the TV with like my whole team, and it was a cool moment finally having live sports back on television. I mean, obviously ESPN was pretty dry for a solid few months there, and finally having live sports back was definitely a huge pick me up for I think every sports fan in the nation, definitely.
Getting the Last Dance out there too, that was just great for everybody, just at home, just something to watch, like something about the past sparked debate. It's good.
Oh yeah. Great for the culture. Okay. Best story narrative of 2020. For me, this was very easy. Like right away, this was number one thing that came to my mind. It has to be Alex Smith coming back off the leg injury, almost dying, having, I believe, somewhere around 15 surgeries on his leg. And then coming back and winning games and making the football team a potential playoff contender. Unreal comeback story. Obviously the comeback player of the year in the NFL. But to me, that's the best story of 2020. It's obviously a year when everybody's down and out. Nobody really has a lot of hope or, pick me up in them. It's tough to find, right? But then you have a guy like Alex Smith come along and be like a real inspiration to everybody who really does feel down and out in life. That guy was up against the wall with his life. He almost died, and he came out and is a starting quarterback for the football team. Beautiful story.
Yeah, that is a great story. But I got one that maybe you two aren't as familiar with. Philadelphia Flyers NHL forward Oscar Lindblom. He was diagnosed with a rare type of bone cancer at the end, and like the start of the season in 2019, which obviously forced him out. And he went through just countless, just trying to get back. And then eventually in the bubble, he was able to come back for game 6 of one of their playoff games where they ended up winning. And it was just a great moment for just his teammates, his family. It was unbelievable that he was able to get back out there again. They really never thought he was going to be able to play hockey again. And it's just those type of stories that, that makes 2020 feel a little bit better. I mean, that was just a good story for him. Unfortunately, actually, thank God the Flyers eventually lost, but I mean, that was a good story. I like that one a lot. And then I think another great story is obviously Randy Arozarena of Tampa Bay Rays. No name, just coming in, just setting playoff records. I know they played a couple extra games that they usually don't, but another great story. Just guys that were just underdogs their whole life, getting the chance this year with some COVID opt-outs and just being able to show what they can do.
How many home runs did Arozarena finish with?
14 or 15. Those are crazy
Yeah,
numbers.
he had a lot. That was pretty cool.
I know he had like 34 RBI. It was like unbelievable.
That's unreal. Is that Flyers player? Is he cancer-free now?
Good. Oh, he's good. Yeah. I don't think he would ever play an NHL game if he wasn't cancer-free.
Yeah. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, kind of jumping off of that. I don't know if you guys have seen the records of teams where Tom Brady lives. So wherever he's lived, every team wins. And all of a sudden he goes to Tampa. You got the Lightning that win the Stanley Cup. The Rays are in the World Series. And the Bucks are playing well. But my real story here is Texas guard Andrew Jones a couple of years ago had leukemia. Came back for a little bit last year. Is back fully healthy this year. He's having a great year for Texas, the number 8 in the country right now. So this is a good comeback story.
It's always great to see a little bit of resiliency, especially in a year like this, for sure. Biggest letdown of 2020, obviously the pandemic, big letdown. Not having sports for a while, big letdown. But within sports, what were your guys' biggest letdowns? Chris, I'll let you go first here.
The Boston Red Sox. What a complete and utter disgrace they were. And the whole season, almost unwatchable. You got JD Martinez had the worst season of his career. Just some of the worst swings I've ever seen. You got one of the worst players in Major League history, Andrew Benintendi. I've never seen a swing worse than Andrew Benintendi's.
It's crazy too, because 2017-18 he had the nicest swing in the league, and then it was just like he has the worst swing in the league.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you got Erod gets the heart thing, sails out. Cora, cheating somewhere. It's just an embarrassing showing for the Red Sox and a horrible start for Chaim Bloom's career as general manager.
Building off of Boston sports, for my biggest letdown, I'm going to go with the Boston Bruins. This is a team that lost Game 7 on their home ice in the Stanley Cup Finals. Just got blown out. Just brutal to watch as a fan. And watching another team celebrate on your home ice, lifting up the Stanley Cup, it's heartbreaking. And they come out this year, best team in the league. It's like, wow, they really want the revenge. They were the best team in the league. They only lost, I think, like 15 games. They were unbelievable. Then the pandemic happens, and they can't bring that energy to the bubble. And you got players opting out. Tuukka Rask doesn't want to play because he's got family issues. But then the next day he's on the golf course in Boston. So, like, do you really have family issues, dude? And then you got locker room problems there, and then you're out in 5 games to the Lightning in the second round. So, I mean, you wanted revenge, and then it was just such a letdown going into the bubble. You just couldn't keep it up. And it's an embarrassment. And they just lost their captain, Zdeno Chara, last year. He's been on the team for 14 years, staple of Boston sports, and he's gone too. So huge letdown there.
Definitely.
And obviously
for me,
Bill Belichick too. Letdown Bill Belichick.
Michigan football. That was another.
That was
I
expected.
should have added to that. What a joke. A complete joke. Unbelievable.
For me, biggest letdown. So while the Niners did ultimately win the conference,
with the Niners, dude.
they won the conference. I mean, it's been a tumultuous year for the Niners, up and down. I mean, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but definitely a low in the fourth quarter with a throw made by our starting quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. Third down throw. Emmanuel Sanders splits cover 2, and he's open down the field.
Wide open.
And to win the game, Jimmy Garoppolo overthrows him by at least 7 yards. Obviously, watching that, was heartbreaking. But even worse probably has been the fallout, just, having to deal with people shredding Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. But that was most definitely the biggest letdown for me of 2020, for sure. So last little segment here for our 2020 recap. The most surprising story or narrative or team, whatever it may be, most surprising event or thing in sports in the year 2020. Chris, you want to start again?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. This is it's got to be a personal thing, I guess, for the teams I root for. I'll go back to Michigan. Michigan goes in. They beat Minnesota handily in the first game of the year. It's just before we knew Minnesota sucked. And we got to play Michigan State, who just lost to Rutgers. We're ranked in the top 15, and we completely lay an egg against the team that's supposed to be our little brother. I was absolutely stunned. So that is definitely most surprising. It also goes into the letdown. But I was shocked, and I still am shocked that they found a way to lose to that team. It's just a disgrace.
Yeah, I think I got a couple most surprising moments. I think the DeAndre Hopkins trade was just everybody just looked at that like what in the world are you doing? Like, you knew Bill O'Brien was going to be out of a job right once they sucked, and like you're leaving Watson with no weapons. Like arguably the best wide receiver in the league, second round draft pick. Like, are you kidding me? What an absolute disgrace. I think another surprising moment for me was watching the Tampa Bay Rays flourish in the MLB playoffs. They were the best team in the regular season all year, but we've never seen a team constructed the way like the early Oakland A's are constructed, with not a high payroll and a bunch of guys that are just used statistically on the offensive side and the defensive side, just basing the game off statistics. And defeating the New York Yankees was a huge step for them. And then obviously defeating the reigning AL champs, the Houston Astros, and moving to the World Series, I thought was a pretty surprising feat. I didn't really think they were going to be able to do it, but I thought that was maybe the most surprising moment of the year, or the most surprising team. I'll put it that way. Easily the most surprising moment was that Jimmy G can't complete a pass to wide open Emmanuel Sanders. And that was just unbelievable. I still, you must have nightmares about that.
There's the fallout. See, this is the fallout. I'm still dealing with it. The last day of the year, December 31st.
Last one, the fact that Tom Brady could only score 13 points against the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs. That was the most.
The writing was on the wall for that team. That writing was on the wall.
It felt like you were going to lose going into that game, but it really didn't feel like that Tom Brady was going to be, and the offense was going to be the reason that we were going to be let down,
Elmo's going to catch the ball on 2nd and 6 in that last drive. Yeah.
Very disappointing and surprising. It was surprising. Like, not many people are going to go in the playoffs and be like, oh, wow, the Titans are going to go to New England and beat the Patriots. Like, it just doesn't happen. I'll let you take it away, Dylan.
Yeah, for sure. Right here written down, I had Tampa Bay Rays. Obviously, like you said, laid it out perfectly. Never had a team that was constructed like this go so far. Obviously, the
Snell decision. How could I forget?
Obviously, Kevin Cash, like, sticking with the structure way too much, way too far down the logistical little rabbit hole there.
That's what's surprising too. The reason that what got him so far is the reason they lost.
It's brutal, but that's just how it goes. Sometimes you got to be able to use your common sense as a manager, and he just did not. But that was a very surprising team this year, making the push that they did. I think the pandemic may have helped them a little bit. Who knows? But another surprising team, Lenny, that I honestly, I'm not really surprised that you didn't say this team, because you knew that they were going to be very, very good, but the Miami Heat.
To the world, it's surprising, but I was on this since September 2019, telling everybody, like, this is what's going to happen. They're going to win the Eastern Conference. I mean, you can say it's surprising because, 5 seed, basically where they were ranked. That's a surprising result. But honestly, I was not surprised. But, I mean, I can see how it can be that way.
For me, I was mostly surprised during the Milwaukee series. Obviously, Giannis got hurt later in the series, didn't really play. That was probably a factor for sure. But going into that series, everybody counted them out. Nobody expected them to come out like beating the Bucks there. The next round, I kind of knew that the Celtics didn't really have the juice, but
I mean, yeah, you look at the Celtics and you go, I mean, that's another surprising thing. How surprising was it the Celtics completely botched that series? And, I just go back to games 1 and 2. They had huge leads in both games, and they completely fumbled those leads and lost. And, you got – what was that? Was that game 1 where Tatum decided it was a good idea to pull up from 40 feet?
Step back, left wing, step back, three-point shots in the clutch. I love watching him do those.
Obviously a great shot. But, very surprising how they just managed to botch their opportunity to get to the finals. So it's still annoying. I didn't bring them up in any of my things because I would just get annoyed by it. But you brought it up.
Can't talk about it.
I was going to say, what's more –
It's because Marcus Smart's your leader, though, right? Marcus Smart's your leader, right, Chris?
Well, he made the play in Game 7 of the Raptors series.
What's more surprising, Brad Stevens not being able to figure out a 2-3 zone after coaching college his whole life, or Jason Tatum still thinking a step-back jump shot from 40 feet away is a good way to end the game?
It's not just the zone. It was the other series, too, with Toronto. We ended up winning the series. The Bucks in 1, they put on Kemba. They were, completely just out of it when they started doing that. And they're trying to take Kemba out of the game. Somebody else is open, and they just cannot figure it out. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Chemistry issues there.
That'll do it with our segment on wrapping up 2020. A very, as I said earlier, tumultuous year. A lot of ups and downs. Having sports was definitely great. I was a little scared that we would not get them at all this year.
How about one more quick one I just thought of real quick?
Go for it.
Shout out Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, knocking off the Clippers. It was basically just ridden Clippers, Lakers. That was a great series. It was great for basketball. Now you get a storyline.
A very unsurprising thing, Kyle Trash throwing 3 picks in the bowl game. Not surprising.
So, to address that real quick, I mean, yeah, he didn't have a good game. He played bad. You can't expect the guy to just be able to just throw in the B team receivers and just be automatic. I mean, you saw the second interception.
He shouldn't have played then.
Yeah, he shouldn't have played. That is a good point. The second interception was not his fault. I mean, that was a perfect thrown ball. But
the third one was straight to the defender.
The third one was the worst throw I've ever seen. No, I'm not debating that. But I think that the Florida program was an absolute embarrassment this year. This team, if you look at this team should have won the national championship if they have a disciplined coach. And they did not have a disciplined coach. They should have been at least in the playoff. We have one of the most talented teams. They have one of the most talented teams in the country. You can say Kyle Trash, he's trash, but anybody can throw 50-50 balls up to Kyle Pitts, and he's going to get those. I think it's an embarrassment, too, for players that sit out of bowl games. I understand, they could get injured. You don't want Jalen Smith. They got millions on the line. But you don't play in the NFL yet. You're on the Florida Gators.
Oh, I disagree.
They're giving you a scholarship. You're getting a full ride to play football at their school. You don't get to you shouldn't be able to get to dictate.
No.
I think that's embarrassing.
Bowl games don't matter.
No loyalty. I would not draft a guy. I don't think I would draft a guy that skips their bowl game.
Bowl games don't matter. They don't mean anything. Why would they play?
I think it's a joke that it's become that way. I understand the logic behind it not getting injured, but you don't play in the NFL yet. You don't. You're not on that team. You're on the Florida Gators roster. You're not in the NFL. That's my logic behind it. I think it's a joke.
But you're guaranteed to be a draft pick, and then you get hurt, and then you're not playing ever.
All right, say a hypothetical world. You're quarterback for Marin Catholic, whatever. You're a high school quarterback, and you're going to LSU full ride 5-star. You guys lose in the semifinals, but they do a third place game.
There's no such thing.
If they were to do that, but this is basically what it is. This is what a bowl game is.
I wouldn't play. Why would you play?
I'd
have to agree.
I think you're letting down your team. You're letting down your supporters. I think it's ridiculous.
Who cares about third place?
It's third place. Yeah, what?
You're on that team. I think it's embarrassing.
Fair enough.
You don't play for LSU yet. You're not on LSU. You basically signed a contract that you will play for this team this year. And I think it's a joke that you can't play one more game. I think it's a joke. And I also think it's a joke that the coach is going out there and saying this too. Oh, our season ended 10 days ago.
That is the problem.
Can this guy just coach the offense and find a competent defensive coordinator and somehow
Luke, recap what he said for the viewers
Don
just in
Brown,
case they didn't.
Hire Don Brown.
Head coach of Florida, Dan Mullen, said after a 55-20 blowout loss to a Big 12 team last night that Florida's season ended 10 days earlier in the SEC championship game where they lost to Alabama.
He's right.
And he said that this game, it really doesn't matter and that it was just like a practice game. I think he said we had like the B squad or the practice squad out there. That's embarrassing. That's unbelievably embarrassing. Coach the game. If you lose the game, give credit to the other team where credit's due and just say where you got to work on stuff. Like, that's unbelievable. I've never seen a guy – like, dude, everybody should want Dan Mullen's football mind as an offensive coach. He's a great offensive mind. But this guy is – no. This guy just – he's undisciplined. You could see it in his players. He's undisciplined. He doesn't know how to talk to the media. He doesn't know how to get messages to his players because they're doing all these stuff, throwing shoes. Like it's frankly embarrassing. Like he thinks he's in the category of Dabo Swinney, but he's just not. If you watch Dabo Swinney coach, that's the coach I'd want to play for, and I would just not commit to Florida if I was a recruit.
As a coach, you have to be able to hold your accountable, and then obviously your players as well. But he clearly can't even hold himself accountable when he's throwing games away.
Say if you spend $2,000 on a ticket to go to that game as a Florida fan, like that's embarrassing. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it baffles me that he's even in. He shouldn't even be in a position to say that.
But is it surprising when he's backing up Marco Wilson's shoe throwing?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's surprising that he's backing up, but to say like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a penalty," like, yes, you do.
I mean, like, is his behavior like at all? Like, his soft behavior a surprise at all anymore when he continuously
it's not
shows
it's not a surprise anymore. I would have betted my house on it that he was going to say that last night, but I think he's going to realize that he's fine. He backs up his players. That's not the issue, but he shouldn't have to be in a position where he has to back up the players for these kind of things.
Yes,
like throwing shoes. That should never happen.
Yes,
and that starts in training camp, and that starts in just coaching the football team and practice and disciplining.
It starts in the culture. It starts with the culture.
And that's what you saw with the Heat. They were all bought in. Like you can't win championships if you're not all bought in. The Lakers, they were all bought in this year, and clearly the Clippers weren't. And you saw that. It's just, I'm done with him. I mean, I would take him as an offensive coordinator, but I don't think he can be a head coach at a big name school.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Clearly done with our 2020 recap segment. Let's keep going with college football here. Tomorrow, obviously two of the biggest games of the season with Bama, Notre Dame, and then Clemson, Ohio State. I know we gave a little brief overview, I think either a week ago or 2 weeks ago on the matchups, a week ago. But keys for the underdogs going into tomorrow's games, guys. Keys for Notre Dame and keys for Ohio State. Chris, you start.
Yeah, for Notre Dame, they have to control the ball. I will say this: I don't think Notre Dame's going to win. But Alabama's going to win the game. But I think if there is a team that can beat Bama, it's Notre Dame because of the way they can control the ball. They run the ball really well. They have a quarterback who makes big plays on third down, like he's clutch, and not in terms of throwing the ball downfield, but he's clutch. Their defense is good. It should be good enough to get a couple stops. If they can control the football, they have to absolutely destroy Alabama in time of possession to have any chance in this game. They got to be able to run it, and that's the bottom line. And for Ohio State, they have to run. I agree. The same thing. They have to run the ball. I don't think they're that much worse than Clemson, but they have to be able to run the ball because I don't know if I trust Justin Fields in the big moments. We saw it last year. He threw the pick in the end zone. But yeah, that both teams, they got to be able to run the ball. And I think Ohio State has a much better chance than Notre Dame does, obviously.
Yeah, if I had to say keys to the game, I'd basically reiterate what Chris just said about time of possession for Notre Dame. obviously going to be crucial. You want to keep the ball out of Alabama's best players' hands. Personally, I just don't see how Ian Book's going to be able to create on third down as he usually does. Alabama's athletes and pressure with saving coaching, that's going to be
they got to get it. They got to get to third and shorts. They have to be
third and manageables, and then you got to convert on fourth down. I mean, you have to convert on fourth down in these types of games. And then obviously the defense is going to need a couple stops, it's a lot to ask for, but I think Notre Dame's defense is the best in this playoff. I think all around, well-rounded, they have the best defense in the playoff. And, Alabama's run game won't – ETN struggled a little bit with Notre Dame in the first matchup. Let's see if Alabama, can't get Najee Harris going, which leads to Mac Jones having to drop back and throw maybe a couple sacks, get him out of rhythm. You got it. That's basically the key. Just try and get Alabama out of rhythm. Yeah. And then for Ohio State, they got to run the ball. Fields, he had some problem with his thumb too last week, or the last game too. Like that was limiting him to throw, even though he can't really do that in the first place. But they got to run the ball. Clemson's going to be expecting the run. You just got to win the battle up front on the offensive end. And I think you got to contain Trevor Lawrence running the football. We all know about his arm talent, but Clemson runs a lot of read options. And I think you got to control Trevor Lawrence's legs more so than his arm. His arm's going to do what it's just – that's an unstoppable force in college football. But if you limit him running the football, you're at least taking one thing away from him that he's thinking about in his mind. And that's a couple plays that Clemson now can no longer run in their playbook. So those are the keys, I think, for both those teams. I really don't think either of them have a chance, though.
For Ohio State, and this is the reason I think they have a good chance, is because they can run the ball. We watched what they did against Northwestern in the Big Ten Championship. Northwestern is one of the best run defenses in the country, and they ran the ball all over them. I know Fields didn't have a great game throwing. And
You're not one of the best run defenses in the country if you give up 331 yards on the ground. So
they have been all year. They have been one of the they were clearly trying to take away the pass, and but still, you have to do a lot to run the ball against Northwestern, and they did. And you got to give them credit. If Fields plays like he did against Northwestern, they have no chance. He has to be better. They have to be able to run the ball. And if they play like they did last year, they're going to win the game. They should have won last year.
Yeah, they definitely played better than Clemson last year. Yeah. There's no denying that. But the defense isn't as good for Ohio State this year as last year. And I think Lawrence, just a year of growth, it's too much.
Yeah, I would have to say for Ohio State, the key for them in this game, like you were saying, Luke, is stopping Lawrence running. But on top of that, bringing pressure on Lawrence, especially on second and third down.
I think that on him last year. They did. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if you keep pressure on Lawrence, it's going to be obviously, like you were saying, his arm is unreal. He's going to be able to make throws all game long. But in being able to limit that ability somewhat, that's going to open a little bit of opportunity for them to get some turnovers, possibly swing the momentum of the game just a tad. Because if you just play this game straight up, Clemson's going to beat you. They have too much talent. They have better players. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Yeah, that's another thing, too, I wanted to mention. Last year, obviously, the Ohio State defensive coordinator was Jeff Hafley, who's known for bringing pressure and trusting his corners on islands. And I didn't really see too much of that out of Ohio State this year. I saw them rely more on their front four getting pressure. But I do agree with that stance that they do want to put more pressure on Trevor Lawrence, make quick decisions, and trust your corners to make tackles. I mean, as long as Marco Wilson isn't out there, they should be fine at corner.
Yeah, definitely. And then for Notre Dame, as you guys were saying, run the ball, keep the ball in your offense's hands because, I mean,
no turnovers
Bama's,
either.
No turnovers, can't be doing that. You can't give the ball to Bama's offense. As we saw in the SEC championship, there are some holes in Bama's defense. Obviously, they're going up against possibly the best offense in the nation this year in Florida, which Notre Dame is not there. But if you control the game offensively, you might be able to find those cracks in Bama's defense if you keep the ball in your offense's hands. Bama's offense, Luke, you were saying Notre Dame's defense is possibly the best in the playoff. I honestly do not think that matters going against a team like Alabama.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters either, but I do think they're disciplined and I do think they're coached very well on the defensive side.
Another thing I would say is that at least by the fourth quarter, if Notre Dame is running the ball well and the game is close, they're going to Nick Saban's smart enough to figure out they need to take that away. So another thing, and this is, I don't know if he can do this. Maybe. I know he's good, but I think Ian Book has to outplay Mac Jones in the fourth quarter if the game is close. I think he has to completely outplay him.
Yeah.
You have to ask for a lot out of Notre Dame to beat Alabama. That's basically what we're getting at.
Clearly. Let's get some score predictions here.
Alabama 49, Notre Dame 17.
56-21 Alabama.
Give me Bama 45 and give me Notre Dame 20. Let's go the other game too. OSU Clemson. What we got there?
Clemson 52, Ohio State 28.
So bet the overs, right?
That game, yeah. Clemson's gonna roll them.
No, they're not. I say 31-27 Clemson. Ohio State. It might be like last year. Another turnover in the last drive.
I like that. I'm gonna have to concur with the winners. I'll go Clemson 28. And then give me Ohio State 24.
I really think Clemson's only putting up 28 points on this defense.
Better. They have been playing a little bit better. I mean, they create turnovers. You see what they did against Northwestern? They created some turnovers. Peyton Ramsey was third team All Big Ten. They turned him over.
Yeah, but dude, you're watching the game against Notre Dame, and it's like, oh wow, Notre Dame, good series, first time they got they got him confused, got a pick. Like, oh wow, they stopped him at 2nd and 12, bang, touchdown. It's just lightning for Clemson. It's just fall asleep on one play and you're screwed. And I think in a playoff game, I think Clemson's got way more talent than Ohio State does. I think, Chris, you're underestimating Clemson a lot here. I know Ohio State's decent.
I think Ohio State's very good too.
I think Ohio State's very good, but I think Clemson is this is like an unbelievable team.
They're great teams. It's gonna be a great game to watch, regardless of what happens. Definitely, both games are gonna be fun to watch. Okay, last thing here. Week 17 of the NFL coming up. We have games on Saturday and Sunday this week, I believe. Obviously, some big matchups. The Colts, I heard, are not going to be not televising. They're not going to be reporting any of the scores of the other teams that they're competing with for a playoff spot during their game, as they play the Jaguars, looking to secure a playoff spot. They need either the Browns, the Titans.
If all three of them, if any of them loses.
If any of them loses, the Colts are in. Otherwise, if the Colts lose, obviously they're not going to be in. The other ones are going to be in. So with that race there, it's the Colts, the Titans, the Browns, and the Ravens. Who do you guys see in the Dolphins? All five, right? There's five, yeah. Who do you guys see being the odd one out?
Cleveland. I think they're going to find a way, even though Pittsburgh is starting Rudolph, and I do think Miami's going to lose to Buffalo. But I think Cleveland, they're just going to find a way. They're Cleveland. I don't think that anything's changed there. They lose to the Jets last week. Great game from them there. They're going to find a way to lose. I just would say don't doubt them. Don't doubt their ability to find ways to lose. I think they're going to find a way.
This is pretty tough for me, but I think I'm going to have to go with my Dolphins. They're not going to make the playoffs. I've been high on them all year. Brian Flores, great coach, but I think Buffalo is too much. And I see where Chris is coming from, obviously, with Cleveland just being the Browns. But if they lose to how are they going to lose to Mason Rudolph?
Their defense is horrible anyway. So, I mean, I don't know.
No, not that bad, dude. The Steelers' offense is horrid.
Well, I just don't doubt them. Don't doubt them.
No, I'm not doubting them. I'm not upset with your take. Like, I definitely see it happening, but I just think the Dolphins, just based on the matchups, like who I think is going to win, I think the Dolphins are the most likely team to lose this weekend.
The Dolphins are going to be without their closer this week, as Ryan Fitzpatrick has tested positive for COVID.
Fine, they'll run the Wildcat.
So I'm going to have to agree with you, Lenny. I think that the Dolphins are most likely to be the odd ones out. I don't see the Colts losing to the Jaguars or the Browns losing to Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. It's not going to happen. Obviously, the Browns last week didn't have any receivers, so that was a big factor. But, yeah, I think it's definitely going to be the Dolphins' odd one out, which is too bad. I think it would have been exciting to see Tua in the playoff. A rookie QB in the playoff would have been kind of cool, but it's just not the year. Not the year. But hats off to Brian Flores. That team's looking real good.
Good team. I do think in the AFC that Buffalo actually now has a legitimate shot to knock off the Chiefs. I've come to that realization. I know Colin Cowherd's been on it for a while. I'm starting to believe the offense is there, and the Chiefs haven't looked sharp. And last postseason, the Chiefs never got off to good starts in the playoffs. And I think the Bills have the ability to bury teams early.
It's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know if the Bills are – I don't know if – okay. Josh Allen is obviously a very, very good quarterback, very talented, going to be great for years to come. But I don't think he's going to be able to win a shootout against Mahomes. And at the end of the game, it's going to become – It's gonna be who's gonna be able to make the better throws at the end of the game. Like who's gonna be able to make the big throws.
I think Buffalo's gonna lose to Pittsburgh. I don't trust Josh Allen. I just don't trust. I think actually, you know what? I think Buffalo's. That's my take right now. Buffalo will lose their first playoff game. I don't know who they're gonna play. Could be Baltimore. Could be Miami, Indianapolis, Tennessee. Whoever it is, they are going to lose their first playoff game because I don't trust Josh Allen in the playoffs. I saw what he did last year when he decided it was a good idea to just literally drop the ball off to the defender. Like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I don't trust them in the playoffs. They're losing their first.
Allen or Rivers?
Allen or Rivers? Allen.
Yeah, they played.
Allen.
So then they're going to beat the Colts. They play the Colts.
No, the Colts are a more talented team.
Colts have a better running game, though. It's like that. Their offense is Jonathan Taylor first.
Your defense is pretty good.
I could see it, but I don't have confidence in that.
Your defense isn't pretty good if you're giving up 31 points to the Steelers in the second half.
Listen, yeah, you'll see. I'm high on the Colts. Watch out for them. They're a sleeper team.
No, their quarterback's Phillip Rivers, dude.
He's solid.
He is not. He has more of a noodle than I've ever seen a quarterback have.
Solid. He's very solid. He gets the job done.
He's solid. Jimmy G's trash, right?
Did you watch him?
But Phillip Rivers is solid.
What?
Correct.
Did you watch him try and go down the field last week against Pittsburgh? He was throwing absolute muffins.
Well,
there should have been like 8 interceptions.
Solid.
Dude,
He's a solid quarterback.
He sucks.
Solid.
He sucks. They'd have a better chance with his 9th kid playing there. He sucks. He's awful.
I would have to agree.
I believe the Dolphins in the playoffs. Like, come on.
If they played Miami, they lose. Buffalo, yeah. You have to keep in mind, like, look at Buffalo. If they're going to throw everything at this game this weekend, they're really going to show Miami everything a week before they play them again. Keep that in mind. That could happen.
Well, what's Miami going to do?
I don't know. They can play them again, and they'll beat them. Brian Flores making adjustments.
I disagree. I think the Bills have a good coach. I don't think they're going to mismanage this game.
Yeah, McDermott's solid. McDermott's a real good coach. I like that guy a lot. I think that'll do it for our last episode of 2020.
The NFC?
We could talk about the NFC a little bit.
We're running a
little long here, but definitely let's talk. Let's go. The Bears and then the Rams are that's the last spot, right?
Yeah, Bears, Rams, Cardinals.
Don't the Rams play the Seahawks this weekend?
Rams play the Cardinals.
No, the Niners do.
The Rams are in deep trouble. Even though they will benefit from not having Jared Goff this week, they are in trouble. Because they're going to lose to the Cardinals, and they are going to be solely depending on the Bears losing to Green Bay to make the playoffs. Because if the Bears beat Green Bay and they lose to the Cardinals, the Rams are done. And that's surprising with how big the roster is. But
didn't Green Bay clinch the one, right?
No, they haven't yet. Because if there's a 3-way tie between Seattle, New Orleans, and Green Bay, New Orleans gets the 1 seed. So Green Bay will be throwing everything at that game.
How does that? Oh, there could be a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think the Rams will make it because I think the Bears will lose, but they might be in trouble. That's interesting.
What about what NFC East? We have Washington playing the Eagles, right?
We know what's going to happen there. We know what's going to happen. If Alex Smith's in there, it's automatic.
Yeah.
Just the football team. I've been saying it for a while. They're winning out. Unfortunately, they didn't win out, but they were close. So the football team.
That'll complete the comeback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he'll beat Tom Brady in the playoffs.
All right.
And then he'll beat.
For rails.
I'd have to agree though. If they handle their business, there's no opportunity for the Cowboys or Giants. So, yeah, Alex Smith.
Who's going to win that game?
Giants. The Cowboys will. It's the Cowboys. The big game.
They'll throw up. Yeah, they'll throw up on themselves. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Giants.
Giants have a solid defense. They have a solid defense, and I think they'll be able to stop Andy Dalton and Zeke, and
I would
they'll
hope so.
win that game. They'll win that game, but it won't matter because the football team obviously.
It won't matter. It will not matter. 7-win football team. Just got 2007, 2011 New York Giants written all over them. Not the ending game, but the going to the Super Bowl.
No, they might win the whole thing. They got a shot.
Exactly. As long as you're in.
Exactly.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen in the playoffs, especially, well, it won't be 2020, but it's 2020 season. Anything can happen for sure. So that will do it for our last episode of 2020. It's been a solid year, boys. I mean, we started straight out the Lou. We started our first year at college. The Miami Heat made the finals.
Made the finals. How about that?
It's been a solid year, but here is to an even better 2021. Definitely, viewers, stay updated on our Instagram page. We are going to be creating a blog in which we will be giving more regular, more takes on a more regular basis with a little more extended opinion. I think that will be a great thing for you guys, and also for our channel here, for our program Straight Out the Lou. But boys, it's been a pleasure. This year has been a pleasure getting to know you guys and forming some great friendships. And I'm looking forward to continuing Straight Out the Lou in 2021.
Yep, I agree. See you next year, man.
Exactly.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.